I love being part of the front line. I love being a part of Takanini. I grew up in East Auckland. I have lived through multiple broken homes. I contain the ethnicities of Niue, Tonga, of England, of Te Atiawa Ngāti Raukawa. I'm proud of every single one of my links. I love both my parents. I love the fact that I've got a wife who is of Chinese ethnicity. I eat mostly Chinese food, proper Chinese food. My kids are multiple ethnicities. And that's one of the wonderful things about Takanini. There's such an amazing diversity here. And we know what we need to have done in Takanini. We know because we understand the people, the cultures, the very environment that it is. So this year, put your vote towards the front line, those who are in the community, working in the community. Party vote New Conservative, vote Elliot Ikilei for Takanini. Whakalofa atu, good evening to you all. Really great to see you all jumping in there and saying hi already. So hello to everyone who's been saying hi. Now, as first and foremost, what you may see, of course, is no green screen. So I decided to come outside, and this is not working. So if this is not working, just to let you know, if I slap my head or something like that, don't worry. There's nothing going wrong. It's just that there's a mosquito there that I can't ignore. So, so look, wonderful to see you all here. So let's get stuck in. I'm going to try to answer as I can on the comment list, and we'll just go for it. Oh, I live in Takanini. We'll be proud to vote for you, Elliot. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that so much. Really appreciate that. It's awesome. So, whakalawa atu, whakalawa lahi atu. So the advanced voting is now open. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I have not voted yet. I do suffer from procrastination skills and also the ability to always be late. I want to thank so much for the teams and those people who've given me lots of forgiveness for that sort of thing. So Ash, hi Elliot. Yep, thank you, Ash. Good to see you here. Did you look at my Sound Money video by Gary? Gary, I'm so apologetic. Yes, you've been sending it to me, and I've got it on my list to do. I'm going to make an election promise. I'll watch that tonight. After this, I've got a couple of jobs. Then after that, I'll watch it. But I'll watch it before tonight. I promise you that. So, advanced voting is happening. People are jumping in there. We noticed that National and Labour both pushing their people to vote. It's great. No problem there. I think it's a wonderful thing to get into voting. So it's exciting. Oh, it's exciting. Just to let you know, we will be having our regional election night special. Will be at the Auckland City Hotel. Can't wait to get there and just have a good blast. Just have a real good relax. It'll be really fun. So go New Conservative from Pauline. Thank you so much. Very good, very powerful sort of stuff going in there. Terry Opines is on the thread. Oh, he's a great guy. Very intelligent, very succinct, and very much deeply in tune with a lot of things that are going on. I am voting tomorrow. Who are you voting for, Terry? Who are you voting for? So yeah, great things are going on. I I do want to also bring up the issue that sort of popped up. As you know, Judith Collins in the latest debate, she was saying quite a few times that she is Christian. And yes, we did have a look into why she's suddenly saying that, and suddenly she's also talking about a lot of the farmers things. And so we did have a bit of we were a bit more like, makes sense. The PR teams probably come back to us and say, look, you're losing all of the Christians, so you need to say, I'm a Christian lots of times. And we did bring up, which we feel was not mean, but it was valid, that the voting record was actually quite shocking in terms of that. And it's something which we are about. However, and I will say this, however, there are two thoughts of mine in terms of the photo that's been blowing up the internet today about her praying, and that there's one with her over the left shoulder, then a side on profile, and then one from front left frontal shoulder part. And there's a couple of bits in there, because I don't think anyone has the ability to judge as to whether her faith is real or not real. No one has that right or the ability to judge that. I think whoever decided to take a photo of there needs a really good talking to, and I think it is fair that no one has been sucked in, that people are actually calling it out for a PR stunt. I think that's fair. I think it's valid. I do slice it into two different elements. One is her own belief and her own faith system. No one has the right to say as to whether she is not praying or is praying, or if it's a fake one. The issue of contention, of course, is that there was photos taken of her doing that. Now that is a bit of a bad thing to do. I did hear one of the wonderful things is that they came to our leader, Leighton Baker, who is very strong also in the Christian community, and they asked him about it. And one of the wonderful things, of course, was that, she's sitting there and she's praying, and perhaps it is good that we've come along. New Conservative is the number one party for anyone who is Christian. There are a couple of other Christian parties there, but New Conservative is the one party that seeks not only the biblical principles of family, of life, of looking after each other, of freedom, of personal responsibility, but we're also actually the only party who have such values and also have the value of equality. We believe that all people should be treated the same. Martin Luther King Jr., to be judged by the content of character, not by the color of the skin. And so that is something that we're very strong about. So I do apologize. I'll be leaning over to have a look at the comments every now and then, make sure that if there's a question there that I need to answer. So it is actually quite a contentious thing, and I'm happy to call things out. So we were more than happy to put out around the idea of saying I'm a Christian multiple times, and then matching that to track record, which actually showed that the track record doesn't match the alleged or the assumed faith system. However, we do disagree that we should be assuming her faith system based off just her praying. But the good thing is that we are here and we are strong, and we're very excited. Things have been going all over the place. You have my vote. I see JC is a bit worried. Yes, I'd say she's worried, and I would say that their PR team is worried, and their pollsters as well. We don't give up. We don't compromise. We're not weak, and that's probably why also the media don't really like us at all. Now, I am a bit of a person who grew up, having a bit of a rib, having a bit of humor, a little bit of banter. So one thing that was funny was there was a particular party that was the darling of the media last year, and it was the darling of the left and the right mainstream parties, and that, of course, was the Sustainable Party, which I believe was Vernon Tava. And however, what's come out, though, is that Vernon Tava, the Sustainable Party, have just released an ad, and it's an ad of the leader speaking to a supporter. But the problem is, as it turns out, is that the supporter is actually a paid actor, and that is very unfortunate. I'm just taking it as a laugh. I'm really not. I don't want to take it as a disrespectful attack on them. But if it was us doing the same sort of thing, we would have to laugh at ourselves as well over that. So it's quite interesting to see how the media has been very much pushing different ideas. They're pushing different parties and people. And the more that the newspapers and the media, the more that they push things, the more it is that people are pushing against the media. If you have a look at the subscriptions that have fallen very heavily, then you can see how and why that is. There is something in my mind that I wanted to also bring up, but perhaps we should wait for after the election before we bring that one up. So we'll see. I like Paul's. If you don't work, you don't eat sentimentality. Yes. And if you ever look at many of the whakatauki, the proverbs from Māori, that is also correct. If you don't work, you don't eat. It's very, very big. Now, I do want to also bring up, there is something that has come up, is more of an insidious, and insidious not by emotional subjective thought, but insidious by activity, push by corporations, by the big corporates, also by politicians and academics, and that is this name of Aotearoa. I love the name Aotearoa. I use it, and when I speak to certain groups, I'll use it more times than not. In fact, I used to work for Tātauranga Aotearoa, which is Statistics New Zealand. So I enjoy and I like the name itself. But this land that we're in, this land that most of you, not all of you, but most of you will be listening to me on, we live in New Zealand. We don't live in, I mean, you could argue if we were speaking Te Reo Māori, you could argue that it's New Tarani, but we live in New Zealand. And if you are going to change the name of New Zealand, at least be honest. Don't hide behind secretive words. Don't try to groom us. Just because we have governments and interest groups who are seeking to groom our children into gender ideology, don't think that you can groom adults in an easy enough way. It won't work that way. What do I mean? What you've seen over the last year, of course, is the idea that corporates and academics and politicians have been using Aotearoa New Zealand or New Zealand Aotearoa and using it more and more and more and more. Now, of course, you've got the Māori Party who said flat out, no, we would change the name of New Zealand to Aotearoa and we would change all the place names to various Te Reo Māori names. Now, what I can't stand the most, what we do not like, and what New Conservative, the reason why we expose a lot of the things that have occurred, what we have done is what we have seen happen is this insidious, secretive way of repeating time and time again the idea of New Zealand and Aotearoa, and slowly shifting it out and phasing it out. And that's, again, this grooming sense, this idea that we will follow the whims of the most disconnected groups on the face of this earth, academics, politicians, and the big corporates. Don't tell us what to think. Don't tell us what to say. We're quite comfortable having a discussion. Come to us. Have a talk. Or, if you would like, a kōrero. Kanohi ki kanohi. Ropu ki ropu. If you want to have a discussion, have an honest, open, real debate. Don't sneak it or hide it. Don't engage in deceptive practices. New Zealanders are sick and tired of being kept in the dark. You know, the old mushroom treatment. Fed excrement and told very little. Leave our children alone. Leave our minds alone. Leave our stuff alone. If you're going to change things, how about for once you come and discuss it with us? Don't forget, for you out there, this is a government, and this is even a very much a political system that does not listen to the voice of the people. And how do we know? Simple. Because every single time a citizens-initiated referendum has come up, it has been ignored. Whether the percentage of the people saying to do something is 65, 66, 67%, or even if it's well over 90%. This is a government that does not listen to the people. And yep, I'll bring it up again. The most brutal abortion bill in Western culture. The most brutal abortion bill. How much percentage of Kiwis actually were happy with it according to the time frames given? 4%. 4% of New Zealanders who were polled said that, yeah, it's fine to kill babies up until birth. That's this politicians. These politicians do not care about the voice of the people, and it's showing, and it is showing. So we're very much strong about that, about the ideas of democracy exposures. I even got reminded, hey, well, what have you guys actually exposed people to? And so I said, oh, no worries. Okay, well, first off, or one of the first things was we exposed the UN Migration Compact. We exposed the UN Migration Compact to the public. Before us, no one really knew about it at all. No one knew that National sort of started it off the track, and then the Labour really pushed it, and Labour, NZF, and the Greens really shoved it in there hard. We brought it up first. After us, ACT jumped on board and then started to take up that battle. Then after ACT, National jumped on board and took it up. Now, out of those three of us who stepped up to the plate and said, this is wrong, this takes away our sovereignty, this needs to be fixed, two of them have left, and now only New Conservative remains in order to fight this fight about the UN Migration Compact, which, of course, we have stated very clearly and publicly, we would rip up into 1,000 pieces. We would rip up the UN Migration Compact because it does take away our sovereignty and weakness. It was also us, it was also New Conservative who exposed the Mates and Dates program. That is, before we exposed it, the public were not aware that gender ideology had reached our shores and was going through our education system. The New Conservative people involved were able to force the government to give us the facilitator's handbook. We've placed it online for you to have a look at so that you don't think that we're just hiding stuff and saying things. Gender ideology is here. And don't forget also that it is no longer just in high schools through one science program, as in the health education part, but now, as of 2.5 weeks ago, Tracy Martin has now pushed in a more pure form into all of the high school and primary school. So from 5-year-olds and up. And I'm really glad that we've got the documentation for it. We've been giving it out. And interestingly enough, we've been giving it out to pastors as well. Pastors are asking for that document. And so we're more than happy to give it out. Our Ministry of Education, it is to be for developmental training, and it is from 5 years old and up. And it is disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. What else did we expose? We also exposed the fact that there was a new prison going into Clendon, into South Auckland. So we knew that there's a place called Whakataka Pōkai, which looked after highly sexualized, highly drugged adult children, those who needed what we refer to as high levels of care and protection in a residential or a secure facility. Well, we found out, without the public knowing, that the care and protection facility was being turned into a youth justice facility. That is a prison for young people. The public had no knowledge. The public had no say. We knew, and we found out, and so we released that to the public. And so New Conservative has been there to expose a great deal of the things that have been going on. You know what? Let me give you one more. There's probably around half a dozen more, but let me give you one more. We have found out, because we've got good friends and because we've got people in places, we clean trash, we hold the doors open for people, we are security guards, we are youth workers, we're in all different fields. What we have found, of course, is that in the prisons are gearing up for something called mana orete. Mana orete is where you will have a split governance structure. So if you happen to be a prisoner who is New Zealand or any other type of prisoner, you will be going through, the revenue streams, the programs, all of that will be going through the normal Department of Corrections and Ministry of Justice sort of facilities. If you happen to be Māori, as I am, then you will go through a separate system. You'll go through a separate governance structure. You will not be part of New Zealand. You will be part of this other entity. And that is wrong. Again, racial segregation policies do not work. The idea that you can split us up based off our whakapapa, based off our skin color, has been proven to be wrong in so many places. Malaysia, South Africa, America, the whole US, even Canada starting now. Racial segregation does not work, and it hurts us. It doesn't bring us any type of unity. The only people that it really helps, or really supports, at least in a financial way, are those race baiting and race hustling academics and the race hustling politicians. Those who make their money, power, and authority and freedom and fame based off tensions within the races. I love my races. I am Tonga, Niue, English, and Te Ateawa Ngāti Raukawa. And I'm a New Zealander. And I'm proud of New Zealand. I am proud to be a New Zealand person. When I see a flag flying high in someone's property when I'm out door knocking, my heart soars. As many of you will know, as many of you out there have. We have family who have fought in wars. Both my grandfathers fought in World War II. My English Maori grandfather fought over there. He was a major in the sappers. He had a bit of a good time. He came back, had lots of great stories. My Pacifica grandfather went over there. He fought in different areas, including Monte Cassino. He came back, burned his uniform, got drunk pretty much every day of his life. Two men with very different experiences of a brutal war. But the price was worth it. As many of our people who have died over there, as much as our blood has stained the lands over there, it was worth it. Because freedom, free speech, the ability to move where we want to, the ability to engage in relationships, the fact that I carry 4 ethnic lines in me, the fact that my children carry 5 ethnic bloods in them, it is worth it. And we have spoken, actually, as a team as well. It's not something that I talk about often. I have no desire to die over my political views, none. But because of some things that have happened over the last year and a half, we are aware that that could be a price to be paid. And I want to repeat this. I have no desire to die for it. I want to be in bed with my great-grandkids or my grandkids and my wife, and you know, I want to get to that sort of age. But if it means that my life must be sacrificed so that our sovereignty, our freedom is kept, then so be it. That is a price that I'm willing to pay. I don't want to pay it, but if it comes to that, it comes to that, so be it. So something which is really, really important for us and really great stuff. So let's see if I've got some sort of comments on there. What's your thoughts on prisoner voting? Thank you, Althelston. I can never pronounce that name correctly. Althelston. So prisoner voting. No, we don't think that prisoners should actually be voting. Basically, if you have breached the social contract between yourself and the country that you live in, then you lose rights. Okay, so when you go to prison, you do lose a right to move around freely. You do lose a right in order to be able to buy what you want and eat what you want and to engage in private enterprise and all that sort of stuff. So why does voting somehow become a special right that one gets? The idea is you go in there, you do your time, and then you come out and no problem. You get whatever rights you got back. So that's your rights to freedom, your rights to movement, your rights to work where you want, your rights to voting, your rights to everything right. It's just a very clear-cut one. You break the contract, sweet, this is what happens. You do your time, you come out, you get settled all over again. So that's absolutely fine. So where can we get the ideology information from, please? So I'm going to assume that that's to do with or help me out if I'm wrong here, but I'm going to assume that you're talking about the Ministry of Education documents. I tell you what, on my page, so that's Elliot Ikilei Takanini candidate page, I will put up the links that will give you the download of the the documentation themselves. They are Ministry of Education documents, and I'll make sure that they can go up there. So no problem, we'll get that sussed out there. All right, more questions. Feed me so I can answer your questions. Elliot, what about a capital gains tax on property? Would you want that? We've spoken about that. We're not big fans of it. We think that actually taxing can be done in different ways. We would look at things, for example, stamp duty taxes. So when you've got someone who's come over, you've got property investors. So property investors, first home to buy, no, we want to make that sort of as cheap as possible, or at least as less onerous and less burdensome as possible. After that, once you engage in things like portfolios, then we would start looking at a stamp duty tax. That can be from about 50%. Yes, it is quite high. And also for anyone who's coming over from outside of New Zealand, who's coming into New Zealand, yes, we would most definitely put a stamp tax on the property being bought there. As you know, our other tax policies include $20,000. The first $20,000 is tax-free, and then we would raise the tax brackets on everything else. Yes, I'm sure that does sound familiar to some of you because we believe that National did have a bit of a borrow on that, and they released theirs a couple of weeks ago. We released ours about 3 months ago. And also we believe in income splitting. So that's if you've got two parents, and one of them is working and the other one is at home, then the idea is whoever's working, that their salary earnings, that we tax it at a split rate. So if someone's earning $80,000 a year, instead of them being taxed at $80,000 a year, we would say, no, you got two parents in a home, boom, split it and make it so that you've got being taxed at $40,000 in a year. And that's one of our big ones in terms of that. How would we cost that? Costs about $10 billion, and we've got an entire list on how we would offset that. Go check it out. It's in our tax policy, and it should be really cool. Oh, don't forget, we've got our tax calculator, which will also help. Just chuck in how much you earn, and you'll see how much you'll save under our tax policy. All right, next question. Hit me. Hi there, just thought I'd ask, does the new Conservative Party support the NZDF being used in quarantine facilities? No, not from a coercion or an adherence point of view. So no, in terms of the idea that tanks and APCs can be rolling up and making sure people are involving themselves there, absolutely not. We are, however, we can see the perhaps assistance in terms of logistics. So logistics and people management, people movement. I don't think you need the NZDF, but I can understand why you would use them because they are a government ordained entity. They are, so in a sense, they wouldn't cost money to use. I mean, they cost money from the taxpayer, but they wouldn't actually cost money in terms of how else you would use them for. So I can see it from a logistical point of view. I'm very worried that this particular government actually leans towards using them as a adherence or a coercive tool, and that is actually a massive, massive problem. I think while we've got the Section 11 powers in gear, and while we have the extra powers given by the COVID health response bill, actually the army using the army is a dangerous move, very, very dangerous move. If they didn't have that, I would be more open with the NZDF being used because in a sense, it makes sense if you're helping people. The problem is this government is becoming more and more authoritarian, and therefore the government is looking more like a whip as opposed to a we're just here to help sort of thing. So in usual circumstances, yes. With this particular government, no. Yes. Right. Next question. Would you lower fuel taxes and would you consider removing GST from food? So the lower fuel taxes, yes, we would, but not in the way that most people think. We believe that you should not be taxing on tax. So you shouldn't be adding your tax. So currently, if you're in Auckland, you've got, I think it's something like 3 different taxes that you've got on it. You've got that tax, and then you've got that exercise thing, the excise tax that is apparently not a tax. And then even then, you've got the regional tax as well. So what New Conservatives say is there should only be one tax on anything, on everything. There should only be one tax. Don't do this double up sort of thing, because as you know, nearly 50% of your fuel is actually tax. It's actually tax. It's a crazy, crazy thing. Central government tax specifically. So that's one thing we would say that. In terms of the GST aspect, we looked at GST. We want to take GST off. We want to take GST off things like the necessary needs, milk and fruit and that sort of product. However, when we looked at the real deep knowledge of it, when we looked into the deep facts and figures and how much it brings in, and is it fair or is it not fair? Is it supporting rich people don't care, and yet it's those of us who are lower socioeconomic, it gets hit more. We actually looked into it, and what we found actually is that GST is probably a good tax, if I can call it that. It's really hard. We need to shave it up, but when we looked at trying to implement the same one that they have in Australia, it got real complicated real fast. And in fact, their own bureaucracy grew up, has a massive bureaucracy even based off that. So it was actually a net loss to actually engage in it. It's something that we're discussing though, because I don't like the idea of GST being. I don't like the idea of much being taxed on things like fruit and vegetables. The problem is that when you get deeply into the numbers of it, it becomes less easy and clean. What I can say is that we would be a lot more transparent with the figures and with the taxes and tax policies for the public, so that at least we're not just saying this stuff out. At least we're giving everyone else a chance to have a look at books to be able to know what's actually in those facts and figures. So that's something which is really big with us. Okay, maybe we can do one more question that's out there. Elliot, is there anything you can do to make our education system completely neutral? Yes, there is actually. There is. So what you can do is, now there's actually, I'm going to go from two prongs. So one of the first things that we want to do when we get in there is take a flamethrower to the gender ideology. The gender ideology is it is in a sense a foreign object being thrown into our education system. It is unscientific to encourage children to question whether they are a male or a female. They are either a male or a female. And anyone who has a psychological condition outside of that, which we call gender identity disorder / dysphoria, we should be making sure that we're looking after them, that they're getting good quality counseling, that we're helping them out. We should be doing that. We absolutely oppose any form of gender ideology. Not only that, we also strongly oppose, by policy, this new push of climate change inculcation or indoctrination that is being pushed upon students. If you have a look at the lesson planning for climate change in our education system, it very much is very strongly oriented to only one type of thinking. That is, people are responsible for climate change, greatly responsible for it. Now, that of course is greatly argued by the science community. However, as usual, the media very strongly does not want to give balance. And if I might just add in here, don't forget that most of our media outlets, including the taxpayer-funded outlets, are signed up to an international agreement called Covering Climate Now. That is, Covering Climate Now. Look it up if you'd like. It's a fascinating document. Effectively, what it means is that the media promise that they will only give articles out that agree with anthropogenic change. That is, human beings are responsible for climate change. So we've got a system like that. It's really bad. What we would do is we would put a flamethrower to that as well and get rid of it. Leave children alone. Look after the STEM subjects. Let's stop the fact that our children are going down and learning about things. Instead of having encouraging them to question their gender and to know how they should be an ally, and also that they need to be worshipping Miss Thunberg, Greta Thunberg, and then sort of questioning how Donald Trump is somehow evil. Instead of all of that, just stick to the subjects, stick to the literacy, the numeracy. Allow all books to be brought into place. Leave children alone and allow parents to be parents. In terms of the bigger stuff, we would also support charter schools. We absolutely love charter schools. I am very honored to have been working for the very first charter school. And what we did there is, for 10, 11 cents to the state dollar, we were able to lift the academic achievement of almost every single one of our students, of which 94% were Pasifika and Maori, or Maori. So we actually know that charter schools work. We also believe in trades training schools. So that would be the idea that for those kids who are actually considered with their hands, that we can put them into a school system, and it's sort of like project-based learning. So if they're engaging, they're going to engage and have a look at different trades, and within that, they learn their literacy, numeracy, and STEM subjects. So, example, painting. If you've got kids who are wanting to do painting as a trade, you're teaching them the hands-on skills of painting, and during that, you can learn the science, for example, the compounds of very different elements of paint, the mathematics section of it, surface area, how much it's going to take for layers of paint, time-wise elements. You've got your English, where you can engage in creative writing around paint and beautiful, and even start looking at Michelangelo and, all the historical, those types of paints as well. So So much wonderful things can come out through charter schools. They're great. I can attest to that. I can absolutely attest to that. So I think that's all we've got time for tonight. It's wow, 35 minutes. So it is. It's voting time. It's exciting sort of stuff. It really is. We're getting wonderful things going on around the country. We've got people who keep on wanting to put in videos of how they have been supporting us, and they want to actually say that I am supporting New Conservatives. We've got so many pastors actually who've said that, yeah, we're supporting you. I don't want to bring up too much here. There is even some cool little sneaky names coming out there, but and you've seen them like Garth McVicker. Oh, Ethan and Naomi, who was made infamous by wearing the MAGA hat at the BLM march. They came out with their video, really supporting and endorsing us. Garth McVicker and Sensible Sensitive Trusters. I mentioned one of a good guy I know, David Shu. He's a mainland Chinese guy, and he says very clearly, hey, your tax policy, you guys are all about family, and you're all about keeping us safe. It's all good. That's what happens when you're on the field. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Just to let you know, I do have a bit of an expose coming up. Ooh, this one's going to be quite a big one. I'm going to give you a hint. Kāinga ora. That's all I'll say. Kāinga ora. So, until next time we meet, Wednesday Night Live, God bless you, and God bless New Zealand. I love being part of the front line. I love being a part of Takanini. I grew up in East Auckland. I have lived through multiple broken homes. I contain the ethnicities of Niue, Tonga, of England, of Te Atiawa Ngāti Raukawa. I'm proud of every single one of my links. I love both my parents. I love the fact that I've got a wife who is of Chinese ethnicity. I eat mostly Chinese food, proper Chinese food. My kids are multiple ethnicities. And that's one of the wonderful things about Takanini. There's such an amazing diversity here.